Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heart with Sandhya Krishnan. I've always been fascinated by the beauty and cosmetic industry and always wondered about, the claims of miracle creams and anti-aging creams and creams that could miraculously make your face absolutely clear and glowing and all kinds of wonderful things. And sometimes when things seem too good to be true, they often are. And this is something that I've been, trying to understand for a while. And I was a big fan of the author Ben Goldacre. He had a book called Bad Science, in which he demystifies much of science, including the whole cosmetic industry and the claims that they make. So today, I'm especially thrilled to have a guest here today. His name is Mr. Philip Alexander, and he has a wonderful brand called Ayurvedic, which is based on Ayurvedic recipes, and it's a cosmetic brand. I have been privileged to meet Philip right in the early days of his brand, which was the early 2010s, and when I had my store, and we sampled some of his products and we gave him early feedback. And my understanding is that's how they built their brand. They actually put their product out in the market, tested it in thousands of exhibitions, got consumer feedback to know what really works, what people really want, and because of that, they built such an incredibly strong brand. Please join me in welcoming Philip. Hi, Philip. How lovely to have you on Heart to Heart today. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I know how busy you are.
Hi, Sandhya. Thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure. And I'm so thrilled. Sometimes when you come across a brand that nobody's heard of, and, we're so used to seeing like the big names. And then you see like a brand that literally is like a homegrown brand, right? You and your wife started it. And today you're big in both India and you're exporting. And yet, to be able to have to have the conviction behind what it is that you're selling, that these things actually work. That's the reason I was so intrigued, and I was so happy that you agreed to do this conversation with me, helping me to demystify the cosmetic industry, so to speak. So let's start with the basics, Philip. Sometimes I feel like, we just make so many assumptions. There is the beauty industry, there is the cosmetic industry. What is the cosmetic industry, and where does it fit in the whole beauty segment? Or I don't even know what the classifications are.
Uh, Cosmetic is basically uh, a term that is used by all the FDA drugs. That's the Food and Drug Association. The word cosmetics is added to it. Food, drug, and cosmetics act as what it goes as. So, cosmetics will primarily have beauty or skincare or hair care and everything that comes within that space. Though we perceive cosmetics to be more makeup relevant,
Hmm.
but overall, it's defined as any thing that is intended to be rubbed, poured, sprinkled, sprayed, or applied on the human body for cleansing, beautifying, promoting attractiveness, altering the appearance. Technically, that is how cosmetic is termed as.
Right, right. So it is actually supposed to do all of these things to us, right? And let's
Yes.
find out how much they actually do and what works and what doesn't work. Uh, so let's start first with the wide array. Let's again back a basics question. We have beauty bloggers and marketing, and every time there's a beauty magazine that comes out, it says these are your five must have products, or this as you turn 40 you must do this, and as you turn 30 you must do that. Like, how have you not been doing this all along? There's such a sense of FOMO that's created. But if I were to like be an absolute beginner, and I just wanted the basics, what does one actually need in one's kit for
Mm.
everyday maintenance of ourselves? Okay, now we're not talking lipsticks and kajal, but like just everyday
Yeah.
maintenance of good health, good skin health, let me put it that way.
See, I think normally among the very basics, you would think somebody will require a cleanser. That's pretty important. They would also require a moisturizer,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they would require a sunscreen
Okay.
in the most basic way. Then you will add the next level where somebody may say, I need a lip balm or a lip butter, I need a toner mist, and I may need an exfoliator. So it keeps, you know, moving upwards.
Okay.
If you want to live on a minimalistic beauty space, you could probably live even without most of these things and say, okay, it just depends on what is important, what is critical. There are people who may have, I think the next place after their kitchen is
Mhm.
the bathroom, where you'll find 80% of the uh, products lying there are probably not being used. You'll just be living on, it's the same 80-20 principle in life, also works with the things you keep.
Yeah, you to 20% of your products get the most amount of use, right? And 80% remain
Yeah.
unused. That is so funny and so true. My God, yes. But so when you, if we're talking minimalism, when you say cleanser, uh, is that, are we talking soap? Like, can we literally be using soap on our face? There's so much debate about that.
Yeah, there are two parts of your question. One is cleanser soap,
Yes.
and the second is, can we use soap on our face, right?
Okay.
Cleanser could be anything that can really clean up the dirt on your face. You could also use an oil-based cleanser. You could use a water-based cleanser.
Mhm.
You could use a soap, right? Now, can I use a soap? You could use a soap on your face. There are all types of soaps available, right? There are clean beauty, which is the trend in, or you could have a natural soap, which is also clean, or you could have a soap which may not be clean, which may be having parabens or sulfates, but you could kind of live with it, is
Mhm.
the way. It's a choice you take on
Okay.
what you want to use. As
Okay.
simple as that. It's a choice in simple terms. What is the most, I always compare beauty with food, yeah, right? Am I so insane about making sure I eat only organic vegetables or fruits? Or
Mm.
am I picking the regular vegetables or fruits? Because it's the same story that goes with beauty. I'm not in control of the pesticides, insecticides, the soil, everything that works around it.
So,
So,
yeah.
how particular am I on what I consume? And so, if I am one of those who are really particular on that, to understand the source, understand the whole journey, and then I can work on the same lines with the beauty segment with how I'm going to live.
You're so true, because even with, as you rightly said, with food, the choices that we make depend so much on what's important to us, right? So if you're worried about the environment, then you don't want, then there's certain foods for which it's better to eat local than it is to eat organic, because then, whereas if it's important for you to not have pesticides in your body, then you might go for a product that's traveled a longer distance but is grown without pesticides. I think it's so important to have that balance and to really make choices that are most authentic to you and with the most amount of consciousness that we have. And you use some words which we read a lot of these days, the parabens and the sulfates. So this is something that I was very curious, Philip. We have this notion, and I mean, I'm just sort of stereotyping here, but we believe that anything natural is safe, anything organic is safe, and that anything that's made in a factory is somehow unsafe. But I mean, I know for a fact that even a natural sort of element like turmeric or curcumin, it is a chemical formula, and too much of that on your skin could create adverse reactions. There are a lot of like honey products and bee products that are highly allergenic to certain, and they're all chemical compounds at the end of the day. Could you shed some light on this, and what we need to actually look out for when we think, oh, chemical products or preservatives? What are the are there any like words that need to stand out for us that we need to know to avoid?
See, everybody discusses parabens. Parabens are basically are a group of preservatives
Okay.
and antimicrobial chemicals that prevent the growth of bad bacteria and mold in your beauty products. Right now, there have been studies which have found evidence linking obviously harm in different ways. It could be thyroid, hormone relevant issues, cancers, whatever.
Mhm.
So exposure to parabens to beauty products, there is a link. Is there a 100% proof? Uh, I don't know. I won't be able to comment on that. But they have studies from 2017, 18, and 19, which have been showing a lot of link between different issues and paraben. Now,
Okay.
there are people who will say, okay, what is paraben and what kind of paraben? How do I know what all it is there, in the personal care? You can have something called an isopropyl or an isobutyl or a phenyl benzyl. There are different terms. Now, this is all Greek and Latin to the normal person,
Yes.
right? So we could just go on saying what exactly it is. And they have a thing called, when you want to know about the ingredients, there's a thing called an INCI, INCI. So
Okay.
you need, the person needs to go on to that to get these beauty buzzwords and understand what is what, basically, what is prohibited, what is not. Then there are, like, the INCI is only the terms given for the ingredients used. Then you need to go, there's another site called EWG.org. That's Environmental Working Group, which
Okay.
will tell you about that ingredient, whether it's harmful, not harmful. The INSEE just gives you the botanical name and the structure for
Right. Right.
different, right? EWG will give you the dangers of using that.
Okay. We'll be
So,
sure to share those.
how,
Yeah.
but how many people are going to take all that effort of, say, XYZ, So
Hmm.
today, most of the brands do have paraben free as a term that is standard,
Okay.
right? It is more or less used because people try not to use, but where we have to look through is things like where people write the term fragrance,
Hmm.
because fragrances are again chemicals, right? You may have other things which you can read and know and understand over even talc or hydroquinone, which is a whitening thing, which is a lot used here, silica, all these things are banned in their own way. But the reason I said fragrance is a little difficult term for a lot of people to understand, that this is also technically uh,
A chemical.
not allowed to be used, yeah, because it can be harmful depending on what kind of fragrance is put in there. Then you need to see, because in India we have a lot of hydroquinone used because it's a topical bleaching agent, like we said. It's found in most of the skin lightening creams or the fairness creams and serums, and also used for hyperpigmentation. Again, you have your own bit of discussions on what it is and how harmful it is and how it works. So there are extremes. There's a mass audience which would pick all these things up, and there would be a select audience which uh, would read about it and know about it, and they may not pick it up. Now, what is a regulatory authority doing on that? Whether somebody claims they are paraben free and they're not paraben free, that's a third part of the discussion. And this can just go on and on and on in those lines. All that you need to know is that all these synthetic ingredients, can you also get them in very safe forms, and also understand that they can also be a lot more effective in some ways, right? Because, say, we make products which work with a lot of clay.
Okay.
You can have people saying, look, clay can be contaminated with toxic heavy metals also,
Yeah. Yes.
right? So it's imperative to look at the processing and the sourcing of the natural ingredients, so that it's received by the body without any negative impact.
So would it be down to like
So
trusting a brand then, knowing what the brand
I
stands
think so.
for?
I think so. A lot of it is definitely got to do. You see, there are people. It's also about awareness. Yeah, you can say I want to use essential oils X Y Z. Say, but there are issues even with, say, a lavender essential oil or even a tea tree essential oil. There are a lot of issues that are there with it. So is it better for me to then opt for a safer synthetic ingredient? So what is it when it comes to synthetic versus natural? So there's a there's a whole host of things that you can talk about. In the end, it is about the efficacy also, you know. So we can talk to a host of people who are really knowledgeable and a lot of people who are just Google knowledgeable, and it cannot lead to any conclusive results, because in the end it's about the audience who are buying and using it. They have to be really aware that what kind of synthetics are used in the product they're using currently, and does this really have a purpose for the skin that they, because most of the synthetics used go in as fillers, stabilizers, or preservatives,
Okay.
either of these three, most of it.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So even if I'm buying an essential oil, there is loads of fillers in that essential oil. It doesn't mean that it's just the way it is an
But
essential oil. So that's it's
sorry,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead. Please finish. Yeah.
yeah. So that is relevant to the ingredients, then relevant to a certain audience who also look at the environment or carbon footprint, and they've got to understand certain things.